University of Louisville's 17th president, Dr. James R. Ramsey, has led the university through a time of dramatic change. President since November 2002, Dr. Ramsey's tenure has been marked by unprecedented improvements in the quality of incoming students, prestigious student awards, research, faculty accomplishment, and philanthropy. U of L is graduating nearly 1,000 more students each year. Its graduation rate has increased 60%, and research spending has more than doubled since Dr. Ramsey became president. The Belknap campus has transformed from primarily a commuter campus to a dynamic, vibrant place where more than 5,000 students live in university or affiliated housing and enjoy new eating, entertaining, and recreation options. A frequent national speaker and writer on economic issues, Dr. Ramsey has received numerous awards, including the Greater Louisville Inc. Silver Fleur-de-Lis in 2012 and 2011, COSAIR Charities Sam Swope Community Leadership Award in 2011, Ad Federation of Louisville's Louisvillian of the Year Award in 2010, and Volunteers of America, Kentucky Volunteer Spirit Award in 2008. The Governor's Association Outstanding Public Service Award in 2001, and Kentucky's Distinguished Economist of the Year in 1999. Well, you need to pick up the pace a little bit. Before assuming U of L's top post, Dr. Ramsey served as Senior Policy Advisor and State Budget Director for the Commonwealth of Kentucky and Senior Professor of Economics and Public Policy at U of L. He has held administrative and faculty positions at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, Western Kentucky University, Loyola University, the University of Kentucky, and Middle Tennessee State University. It's my honor and privilege to introduce to you the president of the University of Louisville, Dr. James Ramsey.
Thanks for the invitation. We always enjoy going to Rotary clubs. My dad was a lifelong Rotarian. He was a member of the Butyl Fern Creek Club. And I have Kazakhstan up there. After the breakup of the Soviet Union in 1993, I had the opportunity to work in Kazakhstan over a 5-year period. And some of the group that I was with were Rotarians, and they actually created a Rotary Club in Almaty, Kazakhstan. And I was going to some of those meetings. I was not a member, but was part of the, I went to all the meetings in which that club was actually created. And again, we enjoy coming to Rotary clubs because you are community leaders and you're opinion leaders, and so we enjoy having discussions with you. I am an economist, so we're going to get into not only a little bit about the University of Louisville, but we're going to talk about some economics. I always start with this slide. If you took time to count the dots, or the bubbles there are 49 blue dots. There's one red triangle down here. Don't read anything into the blue and the red. But we'll just think about that, you know, 1 and 49, 50. We'll come back to that in a minute. Let's talk a little bit about the history of the University of Louisville. It's a great history and a great tradition. The University of Louisville is the second oldest school in the state. Transylvania is the oldest. The University of Louisville's founding goes all the way back to 1798 when 8 community leaders came together and said that if Louisville was to be a place of some consequence, it needed an institution of higher education. And they put up the money to create what was called the Jefferson Seminary. I skipped forward. I'm not going to go through too much detail here, but 1837, the Louisville Medical Institute, which was the precursor to our medical school today, was created. And then the medical school and Jefferson Seminary came together in 1846. And so those two colleges coming together created the University of Louisville in 1846. I skip forward to 1970. In 1970 is when the University of Louisville came into the state system. So I'm from this community. I grew up in Fern Creek, Kentucky. When I graduated from Fern Creek High School in 1966, U of L was still a private school. And the tuition at that time was about $1,800. Sounds pretty cheap today. But tuition at state schools was about $120 a semester. And so U of L came in the state system in 1970. I put in red, we like red, 1997. And to me, that was the watershed event in the life of the University of Louisville. University of Louisville has had a long history, but to me, the most important date in our history is 1997. When we came into the state system in 1970, actually Northern Kentucky University was at the same time created as a 4-year institution. They came into the state system at that time as a 4-year institution. U of L came in the state system, and we were mouths to feed. We were 2 additional mouths to feed, and the University of Louisville was an expensive mouth to feed because we had a medical school, we had a dental school, we had a law school, we had an engineering school, all of which are expensive programs and all of which are at the University of Kentucky. So for a long period of time, the state didn't quite know what to do with the University of Louisville, and that all changed in 1997. In 1997, the University of Louisville was given a statutory mandate. It's still in the law of the Commonwealth of Kentucky today. We're to be a premier, nationally recognized metropolitan research university. There's 3 key words there, premier. That means to us an unrelenting commitment to quality and excellence. Not all things to all people, but what we do, we're going to do with a passion for excellence and being the very best. Research, there are 2 research institutions in the Commonwealth of Kentucky, the University of Kentucky and the University of Louisville, and it's up to us, our institutions and our faculty at our institutions, through our scholarship and our creativity, to come up with new knowledge and new ways of doing things. And the higher ed reform was really about a better Kentucky. And the higher ed reform was about higher education addressing state issues. And we do have a number of issues in our state, healthcare issues. Number 1 killer of people in the United States is heart disease, and we have a higher incidence of heart disease in Kentucky than the national average. We lead the nation in some healthcare statistics. We don't want to lead the nation. We lead the nation in the number of deaths due to lung cancer and several other forms of cancer. And so it's our job and the job of the University of Kentucky through our research to address whether they're economic issues or education issues or social issues or healthcare issues, the issues facing our state to make a better Kentucky. So we're a research university, and the theory of the higher ed reform was really that for Kentucky to grow and succeed as a state, the major metropolitan area of the state, Louisville, had to be successful economically. And Louisville and this whole region had to grow and be successful. And for Louisville to grow and to be successful, it needs a great research university. Ross DeVoe of the Millikan Institute did some research a number of years ago that found the 30 fastest growing communities in the United States, they all had major research universities. So again, the University of Louisville is viewed as being critical to the growth and success of our urban area, and Kentucky can't succeed if Louisville isn't leading the way. We mentioned some of the numbers up here. These are some of the metrics that we're held accountable for every year. It's just a snapshot of some of the metrics that our board evaluates us on. But to achieve our statutory mandate, there are certain things we need to do. We need to graduate more students. We have an undereducated population in Kentucky. And so there are really 4 dates up here. 1998, first year after the Post-Secondary Education Reform Act. We were graduating about 1,700 undergraduate degrees at that time. In the most recent year, 2,731, about 1,000 more college degrees. You can see the increase in the number of PhDs from 76 to 140, funded research from 39 to 186 million. So we're on a good trajectory. The other 2 dates that I have here besides 1998 and 2013 in the middle is the year 2002. And that is the year that I started as president, but the real significance of that year was we took our first of 13 state budget cuts. So there was a small economic recession, had a more profound impact in Kentucky than it did in the nation. Higher education was cut. University of Kentucky and University of Louisville were cut 5 times in 2002, 2003, 2004. And then we've been through a series of cuts with the most recent recession. The year 2020 is also up here, and we have a plan. It's not just a strategic plan or a plan that sits on the shelf, but it's a real business plan of what we're going to do by the year 2020. So you can see the progress we've made, but we've got more to do, and we're committed to doing that. We're on a great trajectory. Let me show you a real quick video that talks about the trajectory that we're on.
sound of success. The result of hard work, determination. That's what put the University of Louisville on our upward trajectory, an upward trajectory that extends far beyond the athletic field. To our classrooms, research labs, and involvement in our community. In many ways, the numbers tell the U of L success story. ACT scores of incoming freshmen up every year. 36 Fulbright scholars in the past 3 years. Graduation rate, the biggest improvement among Kentucky schools. Students living on campus, more than doubled in the past 10 years. Funded research, among the fastest growing schools in the country. In other ways, it's the people who tell the trajectory story. The student who was the first in their family to go to college.
I studied a lot, but I also got more involved on campus. I made some really great friends. You know, I have some lifelong friends from my college years, and from that point on, there was no stopping me.
The student who had heard U of L was a commuter school located downtown, but discovered the park-like academic oasis of the Belknap campus when they visited.
Originally, I had expected it to be more of an urban feel on campus. But then I had a meeting outside by the fountain, and it was so beautiful. I instantly fell in love with the park-like feel of U of L. I feel like it's one of those campuses where you can do the traditional thing you see in movies. You get to study outside, reading under a tree or something like that.
There are the students who have taken what they've learned and made a difference in their life or someone else's.
While representing domestic violence victims and persons being evicted from their home, I, as a student attorney, was able to take the knowledge that I learned in the law school classroom and apply that to real-world situations.
She's not the only student or U of L graduate making a difference. Our students logged more than 360,000 hours of community service in 2012.
To get the full college experience, you have to be immersed within the community, and there's not a real better way to do that than to be involved in community service extensively.
Our signature partnership is supplying highly qualified teachers, student teachers, social workers, and mentors to students and schools in some of Louisville's poorest neighborhoods, building success stories along the way. U of L is also making a difference in Louisville's job market, partnering with General Electric to train their engineers and UPS to give 900 students a part-time job while getting free tuition to U of L. While in the middle of the recent recession, our trajectory was still headed up, up, up. The only crane in Louisville was constructing the first new building for the U of L Foundation's economic development arm, Nucleus, and their clients, researchers and startup companies. Other new U of L-related construction includes the 128,000 square foot student recreation center, baseball stadium expansion, north entrance to Belknap campus, a proposed soccer stadium, and the first 2 commercial buildings on the Shelby campus. Charting our course, our record-setting fundraising campaign is on its way to its $1 billion goal, funding more student scholarships and outstanding faculty. And as for our state-mandated mission of becoming a premier metropolitan research university, that's on the right trajectory too, with world-renowned discoveries. Yes, there's great work being done in research, academics, and community engagement at the University of Louisville. And the trajectory our athletic teams are on
Parker's being held, and he caught it anyway, I think. Touchdown!
isn't bad either.
Stunned the women's college basketball world, defeating Baylor and now slaying Tennessee. And they're headed to their second Final Four. And Louisville wins a terrific championship game, 82-76.
We are proud of our trajectory and the progress that we've made, but we do have so much more to do, and our plan is what we call the 2020 plan. It's our roadmap of where we're going to be in terms of the number of students we're graduating, 6-year graduation rate, research, community outreach, everything that we're focused on. It sets our goals, our strategies, our tactics that we're going to follow to achieve those goals, and then how we're measured, the metrics by which we're measured. It's also our business plan that outlines what it's going to take to get there in terms of financial resources. We're making progress, but we've been challenged. And the biggest challenge is the same challenge you face in each of your businesses, and that's been the economy and the recession that we've gone through in 2008, 2009. I am an economist. I don't get to teach economics very much, so you're getting 5 minutes of macroeconomics 201. This is GDP quarterly data. Green is good. It's above zero. The red is bad. But this is the recession of 08 and 09. And just when we thought the economy was coming back, there have been some bumps in the road here. You can see a negative quarter. You can see what happened at the end of the last calendar year. The economy is growing, but it's not on fire yet. It really hasn't rebounded yet. We've been through the worst economic period since the Great Depression in the 1930s. There have been 11 post-World War II recessions, and this is the depth of each of those recessions, and you can see this has been the deepest recession, and in terms of duration, the longest recession that we've actually been in. We're coming out of the recession, but the real problem is the economy is not growing enough to add jobs. And during the recession, we lost, as a nation, 7.5 million jobs. 7.5 million people who were working before the recession lost their jobs. We've added back a lot of those jobs, but we still have 1.8 million people, fewer people working today than we had pre-recession. So we've added back, as you can see there, 5.6 million of the jobs we've lost. But the economy's just not growing fast enough to really replace all the jobs we've lost. Now, if you translate that to Kentucky, this is a little different depiction of the same thing. Along the horizontal axis, I have time going all the way back to the year 2000. And this is August, the most recent data for which month's available. State data on employment, this is the number of people working in Kentucky, is published monthly by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. So you can see back over a decade ago, we had 1,814,000 people in Kentucky working. Remember I said there was a little bitty recession in 2001 and 2002, but it was a big recession in Kentucky. We really began to lose some of our best jobs, and those were our manufacturing jobs. Kentucky's always been a manufacturing state. The three sectors that we've always had a higher density of jobs than the national average has been manufacturing, agriculture, and mining, and primarily coal mining. And there's what we call non-durable manufacturing, a lot of the cut and sew operation in south central Kentucky. Those are $8 and $10 an hour jobs. But we began to lose a lot of our durable manufacturing jobs during this period of time right here, and those are our best paying jobs. In fact, if we look, well, let's go on through this. You can see we came out of that recession, had really nice growth, got to 1,870,000 people working, and then the recession of 08 and 09. It was like somebody turned the light switch, just lost jobs, 120,000 jobs in Kentucky. We've been adding them back, but we still have about 23,000 fewer people working in Kentucky today than we had before the recession. And really the scary thing is we got 1,846,000 people working today, not a whole lot more than we had working 13 years ago. Here's our manufacturing employment. Some of this is the recession. Some of it's gains in productivity, which are good, but a lot of it are the jobs that existed when I grew up, and GE employed 25,000 people. Today they employ about 4,800 people. But they're trying to bring some of the jobs that have gone to Mexico and low-wage countries. They're trying to bring those jobs back, and the video mentioned some of our partnerships with GE. Now, what's that all have to do, other than I'm weird and I'm an economist and I talk about these things, what's that all have to do with higher education? If you follow monthly employment data in Kentucky, you know what's going to happen to the state budget. The state's general fund, which finances most state operations, is made up, 75% of the state's general fund comes from the individual income tax and the state sales tax. So when people are working, they're paying state income taxes. When people are working, they have income to buy iPads and iPhones and other products that you and I like to consume. So again, the sales tax and the individual income tax are very highly correlated with the economy, with economic activity, and with employment. So when we go into a recession and people lose their jobs, that means state budget cuts. And if you look at the state general fund, there's a lot of data, but this is in billions. So for each of these different years, this shows the amount of revenue that's been collected in the state general fund. So you can see way back, this was a great era. The State's General Fund was growing almost 10% a year. Then we went into the recession, and this is really, for Kentucky, the depth of the recession. The General Fund, we were collecting less taxes in these 2 succeeding years. Remember, Kentucky's one of the few states that has a biennial budget process. So when the General Assembly comes to town in January of 2014, they'll be adopting a budget for the year 14, 15, 15, 16. So from 2008, there's a biennium, and you can see we've had some revenue growth, but it's been very modest. But here's the real problem in Kentucky. Here's the real policy problem that we've got as a state. If you look, let's go back. If you look from right there to right there, it's an increase in the State's General Fund. In fact, the State's General Fund, over that 6-year period of time, has increased by 10%. That's modest. That's very modest. The economy's moving slowly, but it is growing. The problem is on the expenditure side of the budget. And public pension expenditures have grown, and you all face it. You face it every day. Public pensions have gone up 63%. Medicaid has gone up 42%. Debt service has gone up 32%. Correction spending. The General Assembly and the governor have done everything they can to protect education, but when those numbers, you just can't do it. SEEK has been cut 1%. Higher education's been cut 14%. We at the University of Louisville have been cut 13 times in the last 12 years. This past year was the first year in which private support to the University of Louisville was greater than state support. We raised in private dollars $141.8 million. Our state appropriation was $141.1 million. We're cutting education, and it's nobody's fault. It's the economy and it's the structural imbalance that we have in our budget, but we're cutting education at the very time that education is more important than it's ever been. If you look at the unemployment rate just go back a couple of months, the unemployment rate for the nation was about 7.6%. The unemployment rate for those with a college degree was 3.8%. Never has a college degree been as important as it is today. We live in a global economy. We live in a changing economy. The jobs of today are very different than the jobs of yesterday, and we don't even know what the jobs of tomorrow will be. Higher education is more important, and that's kind of what I've got here. We believe that for Kentucky to grow and succeed in our community, we've got to develop new economic clusters. Again, the jobs of yesterday are very different than the jobs of today, and some of the growth in our economy and in Louisville and so forth in this region has been around healthcare and life sciences, and there's a lot of reasons for that. Humana, Rescare, Kindred. We've got a great hospital system. The University of Louisville, Norton's Jewish. Look downtown with Kosare Children's Hospital. And the real game changer in terms of healthcare in the long term was the Human Genome Project. Logistics and distribution. We're fortunate with our location. We're within 500 miles of 60% of the nation's population. We've got a great interstate system. We've got the river. We've got UPS. Today, UPS is the largest employer in our state with about 20,000 workers. Those are good jobs. Those are jobs we want. But the fact of the matter is they don't pay as well as the manufacturing jobs we've lost. So even in many cases, the jobs that are replacing the lost jobs aren't paying what the lost jobs have paid. We can get back a lot of the jobs that we've lost in manufacturing, but it takes a paradigm shift in how we produce goods, and it involves what we call additive manufacturing, and really sort of producing goods from the micro or the nano level up to the product. We've been an energy state. We'll always be an energy state. There are opportunities for job creation in renewable energy and, of course, business services. We believe that if our policymakers in Kentucky would stay focused on 4 policy goals, we could deal with a lot of the state's economic issues, our healthcare issues, social issues, and those 4 policy objectives are education, 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 and education. Early childhood education, K through 12 education, higher education, and adult lifelong learning. And we say that because we come back to I've changed the colors here a little bit. These are the blue dots and the red triangle. But along the horizontal axis is the percent of the population that has a college degree. The vertical axis is per capita income, average income in each state. And you can imagine, I've now changed the color over here to blue, but that triangle is Kentucky. Our per capita income is only 81% of the national average. We're earning 81 cents for every dollar someone, on average, in other states are earning. And it's because we have only about 21% of our population with a college degree. You can see the national average here. The U.S. average is 27%, and per capita income is $42,000. These are Connecticut. These are some high cost of living states, Connecticut and New Jersey and so forth. But even when you adjust for cost of living differences, we're a low income state. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay.